When a figure who once defined an era walks back through the curtain, the gravity of the scene shifts, and that is exactly what AJ Lee's return has done. The moment she stepped onto SmackDown on September 5th in Chicago, and then hit Raw on September 8th, the conversation around women's wrestling, mixed tags, and long-term storytelling reorganized itself around her voice, her timing, and her ability to turn a single beat of silence into a live-wire pause. To feel the weight of it, you have to remember what AJ represents beyond the week-to-week noise. Between 2011 and 2015, she carved out a character that bridged the end of the Divas label and the birth of the women's evolution. A performer who could sell vulnerability and menace in the same breath, who could structure a match around character beats and still land the athletic punctuation that makes a crowd sit forward, and who then left at a peak, wrote a best-selling memoir, produced and wrote outside the ring, and became a kind of cultural shorthand for authenticity in a business that too often rewards caricature. The return slots into that legacy like a missing puzzle piece. You can already see how her presence retextures the mid-card and reframes the main event by adding a voice that doesn't need catchphrases to stick, a cadence on the mic that can flirt with irony and snap into threat, and a ring IQ that's less about volume and more about precision, economy, and emotional clarity. The immediate beats have been sharp and smart. The home field surprise pop in Chicago, the live confrontation on Raw set up to maximize contrast, Becky's straight-ahead fire against AJ's sideways blade, Rollins and Punk as mirrors and foils, and the quick escalation toward a premium live event that reads like a carefully designed reintroduction to rather than an isolated stunt. That structure matters because it gives the audience a map to follow and gives the performer repetitions to find timing, cardio, and chemistry in front of cameras without being forced into a 30 minutes epic on night one. From a booking perspective, it's a masterclass in optionality. The mixed tag is a modular vehicle that can pivot toward AJ versus Becky one-on-one, seat tension between any two of the four, or branch into title routes after the dust settles while still protecting ring rust and highlighting strengths. You can run a finish that's clean to cement credibility, or lean hillside shenanigans to extend the program, and either choice leaves you with 2 or 3 viable paths. From an audience engineering standpoint, AJ is what television executives dream about. She brings back lapsed fans from the early 2010s boomlet, excites the post-2018 generation that grew up on the Revolution era, and intrigues casual viewers scanning thumbnails and clips. That cross-segment pull is rare, and you can already feel it in the way her segments became anchors for show promotion, the way short video packages introduce her to newcomers without burying veterans in exposition, and the way discussion jumped from fan circles to mainstream pop culture chatter. There is also a deeper symbolic test at play. Give Divas a Chance was a spark that helped change an industry's posture, and her return years after the evolution was declared won is a stress test for what really changed. Are the stories richer? Are the stakes higher? Are the women given equal narrative oxygen, not just in minutes, but in meaning? AJ's presence pressures the system to answer yes, because she is a performer who exposes fluff by contrast, whose smallest eyebrow flick can make a line land heavier than a shouted monologue, and whose best matches are built on character logic as much as athletic execution. In ring, curiosity is naturally focused on mechanics, footwork, timing on counters, comfort taking, and giving high-tempo sequences. And again, the mixed tag is the smartest first step. It distributes workload, lets her highlight offense she wants to feature now, shields what may still be calibrating, and invites creative layouts where each hot tag is a narrative cliffhanger instead of a cardio test. If she hits that balance, the crowd will do the rest, and the camera will find exactly the moments that remind everyone why she was different. Outside the ropes, the brand calculus is straightforward. A return like this is a marketing flywheel, with clips that travel, shorts and reels that recontextualize old moments against new ones, interviews that plant long-term seeds, and an easy on-ramp for cross-media appearances. The company has already framed the comeback within a larger programming cadence, which means you should expect a steady drip of packages, backstage bits, cold opens, and post-match reactions designed to keep the temperature high through the payoff date, and then hand off into the next arc without a drop in altitude. Now about the AWA piece. Historically, AWA refers to the American Wrestling Association, Vern Gagney's promotion that ended decades ago and now lives. Essentially, as part of wrestling history. In 2025, if someone says, "What does AJ add to the WWE?" they usually mean one of two things. Either a slip of the tongue when they're actually talking about the current WWE ecosystem, or shorthand for the wider scene. In either interpretation, the practical answer is the same. AJ adds value where the lights are on and the story is being told week after week on global television, which is WWE. The enhancement she brings: a sharper promo ecosystem for women, a renewed appetite for long-form rivalries that reward attention, a blueprint for folding real-life history into on-screen fiction without cheap shots, feeds directly into that machine, not a defunct brand. If you want to get more granular about what she adds, start with differentiation. In an era packed with powerful champions and charismatic challengers, AJ's persona is built on unpredictability and human scale. She never reads as a superhero or a cartoon. She reads as a person you underestimate at your peril, and that flavor opens matchups that feel fresh even when the names are familiar. Add to that her habit of using mic time to make the opponent look dangerous while elevating herself, a trick many claim to practice, but few truly perfect. And you get segments where everyone leaves bigger than they entered, the most reliable currency in weekly wrestling. Layer in the mixed audience magnetism, nostalgia without retreat, novelty without gimmick, and you can see why the company has immediately placed her in scenes with other A-tier talkers. Becky, because the verbal chemistry is combustible. Rollins, because his energy throws a bright frame around any segment he touches. Punk, because the real-life backstory invites a natural frisson that can be harnessed or subverted as needed. The criteria for success will be equally simple. Does the character feel like she's here to stay rather than passing through? And does the wrestling tell a story that matches the aura? Nail those two and the return stops being an event and becomes an engine for the fall season. Beyond the first program, the possibilities multiply. A singles feud with Becky that stretches across multiple big shows with evolving stipulations, a pivot to a title chase that tests different dance partners and exposes new layers of AJ's current moveset. Alliances that look unlikely on paper but explode on screen. Even a mentor-antagonist dynamic with one of the rising names from NXT called up to the main roster. You also can't ignore how her presence invites the company to experiment with format, more long-form interviews, more episodic through-lines, where a look from week 2 pays off in week 6, more space for subtlety during a stretch when bombast is the default. AJ's superpower has always been making small choices read big, and that kind of performer tends to pull a show towards smarter storytelling almost by gravity. Strip it down to the core and the thesis is clean. AJ Lee's return is a convergence of memory, craft, and opportunity, built on carefully chosen first beats, positioned to revive old fans and mint new ones, and framed to let her do what she does best: turn a camera into a confession booth, a crowd into a co-conspirator, and a match into a story that feels like it could only have been told by her. Call it WWE, call it the scene, call it whatever you like. The reality is that her value flows into the place that puts those stories on the air every week, where the legendary crazy girl smile is back, the voice is sharp as ever, and the bell is about to answer the last open question.